Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today's daf is daf Ayin Toivo. Wow, next week we're going to be finished Mitzvah Shem the Masechta. And we're starting what? Hoirius, Emes, Reb Shol? Hoirius. Okay, fortunately or unfortunately, we're a little bit behind. Samach Tesamet Beis, 4 lines from the top, by the 2 dots. It says, we had in the Mishna, we had a couple of cases in Samach Tesamet Aleph of the Mishna, of a goy being mesiachet with the wine of a Jew. One was when he's transporting the wine, the other one when he leaves it in a wagon or in a boat. The other one is when the other one is when he leaves him in a shop, and the fourth one is when he leaves him at the table. So the Gemara asks, why do you need all these different cases? If you just would have told me the first case, I would have thought maybe that case were choishish. You know why? That case it's aser. Why? Because, or it's mutter when he doesn't tell him he's leaving. Why is it mutter? Because he's afraid he's going to see him. So it should always be aser, because you could always pull out away from him, either away from the dock or away from the road, and he can do whatever he wants. So Mimela, there's no heter there. So Kamash Malan, that if he doesn't tell him he's leaving, it's okay. If he just would have said the wagon or a boat, maybe he'll surprise me by going into a different shortcut and all of a sudden show up. Or he'll climb up a watchtower, he'll take a look, even as I pull out of the dock, he'll be able to see into the boat, even if I'm a little farther away. So that's why we're still afraid. But if a guy is in a shop, he's going to just lock the door and do whatever he wants. Kamash Malan, the chidush is that if the Jew doesn't tell him he's leaving, then the guy is always afraid, and the wine is mutter. The machlokes in our Mishna, when the guy knows the Yid is leaving, the Yid says, I'm leaving, how long does he have to leave for in order for us to suspect that he tampered with the wine? So machlokes in the Mishnah, right? The machlokes was Tanakama said the time it takes to drill a hole in the cover of the barrel, and Rabbi Gamliel said the time it takes to remove the cover, the whole cover, altogether. So the Gemara says, machlokes b'shal sid. Machlokes between Tanakama and Rabbi Gamliel is when you're dealing with plaster, which means that if the guy puts back plaster on it, then there's a chashash that it might look perfect, and he won't know that he tampered with it, and therefore you have to suspect that he tampered with it when there's sid on there. Avul shel tit. But if it's covered with tit, then there's no chashash. You're a contractor, Reb. You know that there's a plaster and clay. Clay and plaster are very different looks. And when it comes to tit, it's not so simple to put just clay.
Plaster is much nicer.
Much nicer.
Much finished product.
And it's faster. It finishes faster as well. By clay, Rashi explains it's black in the beginning, and even when it dries, it's still black. It doesn't whiten. It doesn't, I guess, look nice.
It's very porous.
Until
rough.
a day or two later. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Gemara says, Doctor, here's your the Gemara. So Rabbi Barachana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, machlokes b'shel sid. Aval b'shel tit divrei hakol k'dei shiftach v'yigav. In other words, we're not afraid by tit. Why not? Because even the Chachamim say that it's going to be nicker if he drills a hole. It's going to be nicker if he puts tit on it. Everybody's going to know that he tampered with it. So the Gemara says, Meisaveh, is that really true? Rabbi Yochanan says that there's no machlokes by tit. Is that true? Meisaveh, Omer Rabbi Shimon b'Gavli lachachamim. The Brisa says, the Rabbi Shimon said to the Chachamim, "V'leistu me'nikar beim l'mayla beim l'mata." He argued with the Chachamim. He said that if he covers over the hole that he made, it's going to be recognizable outside and inside that he tampered with it. So the fact that Rabbi Shimon says outside and inside must be that we're talking about tit. The machlokes by tit. Because by tit, it's different on the outside and the inside. But if you're going to tell me the machlokes is limited to plaster, lamata, understand, it's yediyah. If you look at the inside of the barrel, he can't smooth it out on the inside, right? So there, it's going to be noticeable whether he tampered with it or not. But on the outside, he can just smooth it over, and lo yediyah, he's not going to know. So why does Rav Shimon Gamliel argue and say nikar beim l'mayla beim l'mata? If he's talking about tit, then l'mayla it's recognizable. But if it's besid, it's not recognizable l'mayla. So it must be that they're arguing by tit as well. So why does Rabbi Yochanan say there's no machlekes by tit? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel the loyoda my ka'amri Rabbanan. Shimon didn't know what the Rabbanan said. V'ochi kamer. This is what he told the Chacham. Ibishal tit kamri to stuma nikra beim lamata. If you're arguing with me on tit, then you should know it's nikra beim lamata. Ibishal sit kamri to, and if you're arguing with sid, he the lamailoi, you can smooth it over on top. Lamata mi deal, but lamaisa, once he opens it up, he'll be able to see on the inside that it was tampered with. Because even by sid, by plaster, you can only smooth it out on the outside of the barrel, but you can't get to the inside, right? Your cut's covered over. He never took off the barrel, the cover. So therefore, on the inside, it's going to be recognizable, and that's why Rosh Hashanah says you don't have to be chayshish. For Rabbanan, how the Rabbanan going to answer that? Says the Gemara, since he doesn't notice there's any change on top, he's not going to go and check the inside of it when he takes off the cover to see if it was tampered with, because he's assuming nothing went wrong. Sometimes
הגוי הוא לא חושש שהיד יהפוך את המגופת, יהפוך אותה ויסתכל לבדוק אם somebody tampered with it, הוא לא חושש.
No. No choshesh, because he's on the outside, it's smooth, so he's not going to, yeah, it's perfect.
Nobody touched it.
Yeah.
The goyim were knowledgeable about the Yanesco.
They knew that
knew
the
that
Yid is not going to
not
drink
gonna
it.
touch.
He
Yeah.
doesn't want to touch. So maybe he can fine-tune his knowledge. He knows that he'll be
Right.
more deceitful to, it depends how smart the goy is.
He's going to be, sophisticated about his abuse. Pesach is in the house. So the Gemara says, Inami, now you need a contractor for this. Inami zimnan dechalim. Samach tesam with beis Pesach. Inami zimnan dechalim. Sometimes it fills in when you plaster it from the outside. The plaster goes into the hole and it fills up the entire hole and it smooths out even on the inside, so you won't be able to tell even on the inside. Omar Rava. Okay, now the Rava says, even to come in Chodesh Elul and say Omar Rava, just take in these words, Omar Rava. I said Omar Rava. Halacha kere Mishim ben Gamliel. The halacha is like Mishim ben Gamliel. Hoyel, the Tanan stomach avasei, because the Stam Mishna is like Mishim ben Gamliel, right? Where's the Stam Mishna? The Tanan, 10 lines on the bottom. Sometimes with beis Pesach. Hoya oichel ala shulchan. Imoy, a guy ate with a guy at the shulchan. V'nich logan ala shulchan. He left his barrels of wine or bottles of wine on the table. Logan ala duliki, and also he left another counter. V'niach v'yotza. Whatever's on the table is asr, because the guy feared sich at home. He's fearing sich that he could just touch it and no problem, nobody's gonna say boo. So therefore it's asr, because he probably, when the yid left, he was manasachet. What's on the counter, it's a mutter because he's afraid to touch that. And if you said, make yourself at home and pour and drink whatever you want, it's also asr on the dulbaki. Why is it asr on the dulbaki? Because once he made him feel comfortable, now he's going to do whatever he wants. Says the Gemara, and this is the end of the Mishnah. So mamash over here, the Mishnah continues and says that the barrels that are open are asr, but that are closed is mutter. How long is it mutter for? If he didn't spend enough time outside, which is what? Like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. So you see, the Mishnah is soisem like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and that's why Rava says the halacha is like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. If you notice, Reb Kiva Eger here has a small sign that references the Gilyon Hashas on the side, and Reb Kiva Eger, the Gilyon Hashas says, "I am Baba Bastard Daf Kuflam at Gimel Amud Beis in the Rashbam." Now, I took a look at the Rashbam over there. Rabbi Kiva Eger says, my Rebbe used to say, if Rabbi Kiva Eger says, go look somewhere, mitzvah l'shmoya, divrei chachamim, ayin sham, you got to go look. Okay, so I went to look. I saw the Rashbam says, it has a kasha in our Gemara. We know in Gans Shas, Abaye and Rava, halacha is Kerava. Rabba and Rav Yosef? Rabba.
Yeah.
Rav and Shmuel?
Rabba.
Rav and Shmuel? Rav be'isuri and Shmuel be'mamayni. Right? Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish? Rabbi Yochanan. Chutz Mishloisha, Gemara Nivam says, except 3 places. What about Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel v'chaveirav? So the Gemara has a klal in all of Shas. Whenever Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel argues with his chaveirim, halacha ke Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Halacha is like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Chutz mi orev v'tzidin rayachon, except for 3 places. So Rashbam asks, Omar Rava, Rava says, Hilchasik Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Halach in our sugis like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Why? Because Stam Mishnah is kavasei. You have a Stam Mishnah like Shimon ben Gamliel. Asks the Rashbam, I need a Stam Mishnah? Beli Stam Mishnah. Ze klal b'chol hashas. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, lach Rabbi Shimon ben Chaveirav. Says Rashbam, must be the Rava doesn't agree to this klal. Rava himself argues in this klal. That's why he's only pasking Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel in our case, because the Stam Mishnah is like him. Now the Gemara says, so once we pass him like Shimon Gamliel, they were not afraid that the guy's gonna make a hole. And when we're also passing like Rabbi Eliezer, they were never afraid that a guy is going to be Messiah, forge a seal. So why can't you store wine by a guy? Shouldn't be afraid that the guy is going to tamper with it if it has a seal, and if it doesn't have.
Big shayla.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough time to take off the cover. So why should it be a problem?
It's a good shayla.
It's a good shayla. So the Gemara answers, you should know why? Because mishum shaycha. Shaycha, Rashi says, is 2 lines in the bottom. Nekev dak ma'oid.
Yeah.
Shaycha. Nekev dak ma'oid. Shiva magufas chovius li'esreich hayayin yoytz. It has a tiny hole that the reich can come out, can emanate from there. And the yeshlochish, and we're afraid that maybe he was able to put a straw in and take some of the wine over there.
Really? That's a real chashash.
That's what the Gemara says. That's why it's not so simple. It's very sophisticated.
In those days, to have a straw that can stick through a small hole,
Yeah.
and be able to suck through it.
It's a sophisticated process. Yeah.
It's not. I mean,
It's also a tiny hole. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So you're saying that is a chashash.
That is a chashash.
Yeah.
In other words, that's the chashash. So now that's how that's what today's daf is daf ayin. So let's get going. Oh my Rav.
No straws were invented in those days.
Not plastic straws, but oh my Rav. Zoyna oivedas kechavim. You have a zoyna who is a goita. V'Yisrael masuban etzla, and you have a Yisrael who came to do an avera with her. Yeah, knocked on her door, and he's sitting around the table with her, and chamra, and he sees wine. Shari, it's mutter. The chamra is mutter. Now, I'm not sure who the wine belongs to. I'm assuming the wine is, I guess, it was a closed bottle. There was no chashash beforehand. Maybe the Yid brought the wine, or whatever it is.
Zona with kochavim.
he says here the Jews' wine.
It's the Jews' wine. I like that. Okay, very good. I wasn't able to find it in any of the Rashis here, but
So he's
Jews' wine. It's true that this Yid, Nebuch, fell prey to his Yitzhahara of Arayas, right? But Yitzra the Yayin Nesech loy takef lehu. Yeah, we're all complex beings. Yeah, we can wear tzitzis and be makpan on lashon hara while we knock on a zayna's door. Yeah, it's no, not as serious. Choshech va'or barbuvya achas, right? So insane, right? So you don't have to be choishish that the Yid allowed her to be menasach the wine. Why not? Because he wouldn't let her do that. He's doing an aveira with her. Okay, that's another mesechta, right? That's mesechtas nashim. And this is mesechtas chveis nezikin. He's not going to allow her to damage the wine. You know what's really interesting is the Gemara says that mi'utin ba'arayis, ruban begezel, and kulan ba'avak lashon hara. So they say, this is the Gemara.
Yeah.
So they say that arayis, gezel, and lashon hara is Rosh Tevis, egel. The egel, the chet egel. Yeah, we're all still suffering from the chet egel, which, by the way, you had you had all that. Okay, fine. So Lamaisa, Gemara says that we're not choshish for yayin nesach. Okay. What about the other way around? Zoyni Yisraelis, ve'oivdei kichavim mesubin. What if you have a zoyni Yisraelis? Right, top line Ayin Amud Aleph. Zoyni Yisraelis, ve'oivdei kichavim mesubin, chamra aser. There, we're not going to say that this woman, Nebuch, she fell prey, she lowered herself, and now she's a zoyna, that she's going to protect the wine from the guy. When it's a woman who lowers herself, it's Nashim Daitan Kalas, yeah? So there, it's Aser Bahana even. My timer, Hoyel Vazila Alayu Basraya Grira. Once she lowers herself, she degrades herself to such a point where she's a zoina to them, then she loses all respect in her own eyes, and they lose respect for her, and she is pulled after their values or lack of their values, and Mamela, the wine is Aser. What's really interesting is the Taz in Shulchan Aruch says, nowadays, obviously this Gemara is not relevant because it's only the olden days where Yain Nesach was a real Isser in people's eyes. Yeah, it was a real Isser. We're talking about real Yain Nesach.
Right.
So there, if a Yid knocks on a Zaina of Edes Kechavim, on the door of a Zaina, of a non-Jewish Zaina, and gets pulled into that Aveira, he's not going to want to be over the Aveira of Yain Nesach, because Yain Nesach is mamish it's Avodah Zarah, Yain Nesach.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Taz says nowadays it's not like that. Nowadays, Stam Yainam is Isser D'Rabbanan. Isser D'Rabbanan. If a Yid is willing to be over on an Isser of Arayas, you could be sure that he's going to be negligent on Stam Yenim, which is an Isser D'Rabbanan. We talked about it in earlier shiurim. He's going to drink with her, no problem. Yeah, it is for sure. So for sure it's Aser. The Taz says this heter doesn't apply today. But the concept, there's just the complexity of a Yid that could sometimes be over on one of it and still hold up. Yeah, Yid Shel Pam. No, I think today also.
No.
The difference is like this.
It's all or nothing?
No.
No, the difference
There's
is
a
like
whole
this.
spectrum.
I know, but I'm talking about one Yid could have, chumras in one area of halacha and complete negligence.
Well, the difference is like
Of course, Ba'arayos.
Huh?
If you know the YU mentality.
Do you know how many times?
Okay, I think we
you know
have to
how many
turn this
times
off.
When I was
Sorry.
when I was in service, and
Yeah.
I was with
What's the hell?
people from the Kippot Srugot.
Okay.
What's the
Yeah.
hell?
And they used to have girlfriends, and he used to have ta-ta-ta. So I told him, hey, wait a second. מה זה, אתם דתיים או לא דתיים? אז היו אומרים לי, אני דתי מפה לפה, דתי מפה לפה.
right. That's emes.
Oh, is that טוב מאוד. For those that
difference-
see,
no,
says,
the
מפה
difference is like
לפה
this.
אני דתי, from the, which half of the body? Very
The
nice.
difference is like this.
How's an issue?
There are Averas that are basically from Taiva.
Yeah,
אני אומר לך,
Avodah Zarah is a machshava.
yeah,
Right? So Taiva is one thing.
Yes.
That's
הטייבה,
yes,
הטייבה משגע אותם.
yes.
Yeah.
Covers.
That's right. Wow, unbelievable. This is a bigger conversation than just a couple of minutes here.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Zugli Gemara weiter. Who
Again,
base
the difference between Yishmael and Esav. Yishmael is about Taiva. Esav is about Gaiva and about Machshava. He's Krum. He's a Yisrael mummer, but his problem is a problem of Machshava. By Yishmael, he's not over the Avodah Zarah, but he is about Taiva.
Yeah. It says that Eser Kabbos Shel Znus Yard de La'ilam,
Right.
and the Tisha was taken by, ironically, the people who
Ishmael.
cover themselves most.
Why
Yeah.
do you think they cover themselves?
Okay, we got to go
They're
back.
doing it because they can't control themselves.
Who based it on Yosef Bechamer di Yisrael? Very good. There was a Yid who had his wine in a certain home, in a certain bias. All oivet kechavim achdal adasha ba'apei. A guy went into the house and locked the door in front of the Yid. There was a crack in the door. And the Yid was able to look through the crack to see what the guy is doing. And he saw that the guy, as he's looking into the crack, he sees the guy in between the barrels of wine. My Rava says, the busy shari. Whatever is opposite the crack, whatever can be seen through the crack is mutter. But any barrels, the haggis of haggis are usher because he's not afraid to tamper with that wine because it's out of view.
Yeah.
Next story. There was the wine of a Yid that was in a certain house. And the house had two floors, two stories.
Right.
The Yid was upstairs, and the Yid was downstairs. Shamu Kal Tigra. They heard shooting outside. They heard a fight. Yeah? They're happening outside of the street. Nafki, they went out. So the guy said, whatever, I'm bored. I'm going back inside. So he goes back inside. And now the question is, when you're back inside, maybe he tampered with the wine and made it yain nesach. Amarava chamer shari. Chamer's mutter. Why? Meimer Omar, because the guy tells himself, just like I came back early, Kodam Bas Yisrael also came back early. He could still see me. So whatever, we have to kind of get into the head of the guy and figure out what he's telling himself. If we can assume that he told himself that he's being watched, or that there are cameras, or whatever else there might be, then it's okay. Third story. There was a certain inn, in which the Yid stored his wine there. And all of a sudden, the guy is found in between the barrels of the wine, and we're not sure whether the guy tampered with it or not. Rava said, if he was caught, he would be viewed like a ganav. In other words, he wasn't allowed to be there. Shari. Then the wine is mutter. Why? Because he's too busy thinking of ways not to get caught.
Right.
In his mind is preoccupied with trying to get away from the police.
Right.
So therefore, he's not being menasach the wine. V'iloi, but if, let's say, he could find an excuse of why he's there and he's not so preoccupied with figuring out a way to avoid the police, usher then, that's usher because if the guy is calmer, then he probably did touch the wine. Fourth story. Again, there was wine of a yid that was in a certain house. And they found a guy in between the barrels of the wine. So Rava said, if when the guy is found there, same idea, if when the guy is found there, he can have an excuse and get away with the taina of Geneva, like that he's not a ganav, saying I'm not a ganav, he has a good excuse and a good alibi, chamra aser, then the chamra is mutter. It's aser. Why is it aser? Because he's calm. He has an alibi, so he's calm and he can touch the wine. He'll touch the wine and make a yain nesach. V'lo, and if he can't, chamra shari, the wine is mutter. Meisavei asks the Gemara kasha on the last halacha. Meisavei, where are we up to? We're up
What's
to
the first word on the line? The very first word on the
loy. Loy. The first word on the line is the middle of the daf loy.
Lo.
Chamra. Yeah. Meisavei.
Yeah, okay.
Meisavei asks the Gemara, nina la pundak. Let's say you have.
He locked.
Yeah, Yisrael left a guy with his wine in a pundik.
Pundik is what? It's like a
Yeah, like in a motel.
Okay.
Yeah, Ninal pundik, and the door was locked, and the guy is in there with the wine. Oy sha'amar lo shmoyer, or the Yisrael told the guy, stand over here outside the pundik and guard the wine inside until I return. Mm-hmm. So these two cases, aser. It's aser. Why? The first case, the guy locks the door, so there's a tremendous suspicion there. Why are you locking the door with the wine? What are you doing in there?
Right.
Okay, that's number one. And the second case, the wine is usher because when the Yid tells him shmoyer, watch it, then the Yid is pretty much telling him, I'm not going to be back for a little while, and the guy gets the green light to do whatever he wants. So the Gemara says, usher, the wine is usher. My love, says the Gemara, don't you think this Brisa is saying it's usher, even in the first case, but Ninol Apundik, when the door is locked, even if he doesn't have an excuse, even doesn't have an alibi, it's also usher. So why are you saying it's mutter when he doesn't have an excuse because he's too preoccupied with not getting caught? Here, he doesn't have an excuse, and you see it's still usher. But says, lie. Don't make an assumption and don't ask a question. Lie, in this case, but he does have an excuse, he doesn't have an alibi, and that's why it's usher, because he's calm enough to touch the wine. Fifth story. There was a yid and a guy sitting together, and they were drinking wine. Now, this Gemara is so clutch, because it's Elul. Listen to this. Shama Yisrael kal tzeluya beknishta. And the yid is drinking wine with the guy. Yeah, mamish. Summer vacation. And suddenly he hears, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Hashem Tzavakas. He hears davening in a Beis HaKnesses. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Yeah? Come. He immediately gets up. I guess he had to hear a tshuva, or maybe he realized the chves, maybe drinking with the guy is not so bad, but I can't miss minyan. You know, we saw the complexities of it. Come v'ozal, and he goes davens. Amar Rava says, Chamra Shari, the wine is mutter. Even though the yid left the wine with the guy, and maybe the guy touched the wine, it's yain nesech. No, the wine is mutter. You know why? Because the guy tells himself every rega, Hashta mitkal l'chamra v'alderasi. Yeah, he's going to remember his wine now, and he's going to come back. Right? He forgot his wine, so he can come back any second. So again, the whole sugya we're learning today is we got to get into the mind of a guy. Yeah, even if you're miyachid the wine, it's like baila be'ir by yichud, right?
Yeah, right.
The wife, big machlokes are Moshe Chaznish, by the way, and baila be'ir.
Who holds what?
I'm gonna baila be'ir means that.
I know what that means. Who holds what?
I'm gonna say the machlokes first. I haven't told you the machlokes yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So baila be'ir basically means that a woman, a wife, can be mesiacha with another man if the husband is in the city.
Right.
Let's say the husband calls from the other side of Pico saying, look, I'm not going to get back to Lebron. I'm not going to go back home for another 25 minutes at least. It's just back to bumper traffic. Right? Is that called baila be'ir? You have a heter baila be'ir or not? So Rav Moshe says, Avadi, you don't. You don't have a heter baila be'ir. Why not? Because she knows those 25 minutes she has to do whatever she wants. You're not going to be home.
Yeah.
Chaznish says no. Still have to buy beer. You know why? Because a woman's mind isn't settled. She knows her husband is in the city. Right. Even it is traffic, isn't that? But just this, she's still scared. She's still scared. Here, The Gemara is saying that all these cases that we're learning about a goy having yichud with wine, right? It's mamish that case. A lot of the hechas yichud is learned from our sugya also, with the time frame. Yeah, psychology, like is a goy's mind settled enough to touch the wine and make it into yain ezach or not? Right? Nitfas keganav, does he have an alibi? Right? Is the yid coming back? Yeah, all these cases.
We had before nichnas v'yotze.
Right.
Nichlas v'yotze, right? This is mamish the case. And here, he's not nichlas v'yotze, but he says, oh my gosh, he's going to remember that he left his wine. He's going to come in here in any minute. Okay, so Rava says it's mutter. Yeah. Hahu Yisrael nachamaisa. The sixth story, yeah? Oivcham dav yesiva ba'arba. Imagine how many stories in one daf, yeah? He was sitting with a guy on a boat. Maybe on a boat. Where'd you go? You went on a cruise with your friend before his chasana. What'd you do? The yacht. Yeah, he's sitting on a yacht. And Shama Yisrael Kal Shipura, he hears the shofar blowing.
Yeah.
Elul is crazy. Kal Shipura the B'Shimshei. That the shofar blowing of Erev Shabbos. Erev Shabbos, the Gemara Shabbos says that they used to blow, I think 6 tkiyas, whatever it was, to usher in Shabbos,
You're
right?
every Shabbos.
Every Erev Shabbos. So here's Mamish Shabbos is coming.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
taka.
שלוש שקיעות, נכון? שלוש שקיעות.
Shalosh, or shesh, I don't know.
That's what the
Huh?
siren. That's what the siren comes from in Yerushalayim.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
והבתים,
Yeah.
נכון? שלוש.
Yeah.
Throw candies to the kids too.
Okay, yeah, that's there were 6 tkiyas, but this is the sholosh tkiyas achroinis. Okay, very good. Anyway, so he right away realizes Shabbos is coming. Shabbos is coming. Nofag va'ozal. He said, I can't come in a boat. Right now they're boat on Shabbos. And then I leave the boat. So he left the wine behind. On the
On the
boat.
boat.
On the Rava Chamer Shari. The wine is mutter. Meimar Omer, because he says to himself, Hashta, Mitke lelechan b'vadarasi. Any second he's going to come back to retrieve, to get his wine. So I don't want to be I don't want to be caught red-handed, touching the wine and making it the yain nesach. The imishim shabsa, the guy is going to say, no, he's not coming back in the boat anymore. It's Shabbos. He's not allowed to come onto a boat on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, Omar Rava. So Rava said, Omar li Isser Giyoira. This fellow Isser Giyoira is in Shas all over. Why? Because Isser Giyoira was whose son-in-law? You wouldn't believe it. Who was his father-in-law? Isser Giyoira, Isser the convert. Who was his father-in-law? Shmuel. The Heilig HaMeir Shmuel. His daughter was captured, and when she was in captivity, she married.
Well, who again? This is
Just very quickly, because it's not our sugya, but we're mentioning Isser Giyoira just a little bit about his personality. So Isser Giyoira was a convert.
right.
Giyoira, Ger.
Right.
And he married Shmuel's daughter.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Heilig HaMeir Shmuel.
Right.
He married his daughter. Shmuel's daughter was
Shmuel
captured.
Hanavi you're talking. Right?
Shmuel the HaMeir.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Rav
right.
and Shmuel.
Yeah. Okay.
the doctor.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Bottom line is, so when she was in captivity, Isser married her and actually impregnated her also. And then he converted to Judaism. And they had a child, and this child became an Amora in his own right. His name is Rav Mori Bar Rachel. And the reason why he's named after his mother is because his father, it was Hayrosoi Shaloi B'Kedusha, Ganze Sugya.
Wow.
Right? Because when he was conceived Shaloi B'Kedusha because his father was a guy still.
Right.
Right? Leidase B'Kedusha Rachel. Anyways, this is Isser Gira is Shmuel's son-in-law. Anyway, so Rava said, Omar li Isser Giyora. This Isser, this convert told me, Ki havinen bar miyusan amrinan. When I was still a guy before my conversion, right? We used to say amongst us, ourselves, the goyim and the pubs, right? Yedur lemanatra Shabsa. Impossible Jews keep Shabbos. Can't be they keep Shabbos. You know why? Di manatra Shabbos, because if they keep Shabbos, kama kisika mishtak chabashuka. You know how many wallets would still be in the streets? How much money would be in the streets if they actually kept Shabbos? They must not keep Shabbos. Why not? Because they're probably picking up the wallets, or if they find the wallet in their pocket as they're walking to shul. I don't know if it ever happened to you, right? You walk into shul and say, oh my gosh, I have muktzah in my pocket, right? So if Yataka kept Shabbos, this is the goyim are saying in the pubs. If the Yidden kept Shabbos, they would take out the wallets right away and leave it on the streets. But we never found Jewish money on the street. Must be they don't taka keep Shabbos. This is the lashon hara the goyim speak about the Jews, right? Now taka, what is the pshat? Now he became a convert, and then he realized that Jews have loopholes. Yeah, V'lo yadana, the Sviralana, he doesn't know of our halacha Rabbi Yitzchak. The Rabbi Yitzchak, a moitzik kiz b'Shabbos, malicha pachas ma'ar ba'amas. That there's halacha if you find money in your wallet or in your pocket, you don't have to stop and empty it out in the middle of the street. You can be moilich for hitzah purposes, right? We're talking about hitzah de'oraisa, right? Hitzah dalat amos is halacha l'shna Sinai. It's a Torah. It's one of the malachas,
right?
And Rabbi Yitzchak is matir pachas ma'arba amas. So he says, Isigur said, they don't know the halacha, the Avadim we keep Shabbos. But they mistakenly believe we don't keep Shabbos. And that's why this guy on the boat constantly believes that the Yid is going to come back. You're not allowed to go on a Sfina Shabbos? Shabbos. They don't keep Shabbos anyway.
Yeah.
So here's a case where the guy is totally off. The guy is totally wrong in his reasoning. But that reasoning is matter the wine because that keeps him afraid. That keeps him on his toes. And he's not going to touch. He's not going to be menasach liyayin.
What if it was, is there any when you have a situation where someone's becoming a ger?
Yeah.
Or a ger is missing it. And now it's becoming a ger.
Before his conversion, after his conversion, Gemara talk. Okay.
But he's already in it, he knows honesty and everything.
Yeah, the whole sugi we learned about it. Yeah, it doesn't help. Yeah.
Actually,
there's a man Amr that says that even 12 months after the conversion of an Evet Kanani who has
right. The
mitzvahs like an Isha,
right.
also has to wait 12 months. Achi yishtaka shem ovet kechavim. Like it doesn't even help for him to do. Lamadu. But I told you my story. I told you that on Erev Pesach, I sold my chametz to a Rav in Eretz Yisrael right after I got married.
Yeah.
And then second day Chalamayit, I'm about to go out with my wife for like a tiyul somewhere. And they're knocking on my door. And the Rav that I sold the chametz to is standing there with a yeshiva bacher. And he's holding my contract. And he says, it says over here, you have a good whiskey. I said, yeah. He says, he'd like to have a drink. I said, who is this guy? I give him shalom aleichem. He says, aleichem shalom. Who is this guy? And he says, no, it's the guy. I'm like, okay, listen, I don't have time for pranks. It's Chalamayit. I want to go out. He's like, no, really. I said, I'll play along. I bring him in, show him the cabinet under my sink, takes it out, pours it into a cup, give him a cup. He makes a bracha. Baruch at b'shem ha'malchus, Hashem l'kedem b'chalim, shehakol niya b'dvaro, and he gulps it down, and I'm yelling, Chometz!
Was he with a guy?
Oh.
He's becoming a ger.
Yeah, he's a practicing Jew.
Oh, that's great.
Meaning he didn't follow through with his conversion yet. He was practicing to be a Yid.
I have a
because he's a goy gomer. He's a goy gomer. So until he actually does the conversion, he's going to eat chametz and Pesach. He can't keep Shabbos. Now he'll keep Shabbos.
I met a guy.
Yeah, goy lemadrin.
I met a guy who went to Or Sameach to become a Gayer.
Okay.
He's from Holland.
Okay.
The family have been Catholics for 300 years, whatever. Anyway, so his whole life he was fascinated by the Jews.
Okay.
He got to medical school and decided, and he met a girl, and they were going to get married, and she said, I have to tell you something before we get married. She says, as long as I can remember, I've been fascinated by the Jews. So this guy goes off to Or Sameach to be a Gayer. And he's there, and he goes to the Beis Din. A week before the Geras, he goes into debate what?
I got to finish.
He goes into Meisharim.
Yeah.
Buys himself a Becher.
Okay.
And then after he's Magayer, he toivels the Becher. Why? Because this Becher had been owned by a goy, which was himself.
Interesting.
Anyway, this couple found
Okay.
they got married.
I got to move on.
Made
5 minutes.
a house there for them. They went back and he finished. Okay, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Shkoyach, what an interesting story.
Yeah.
Who are you, Davanoi?
I met the guy. I saw the guy.
The seventh story we're up to. 7 stories. What? 7 stories on one Amud Chevra.
Yeah.
There's a lion that's roaring in a wine press. Yeah, near a wine press where they make wines. Shoma v'chom Tasha ben Adoni, and they find this guy who hears the roar, gets scared, he hides between the barrels of the wine. Omar Rava Chamr Shar, it's mutter. Meimer Omar, because again, in the mind of a guy, he thinks to himself, just like I have to hide from the lion, a Yid is probably hiding right behind me and he's seeing what I'm doing. And he sees me. There was a lot of ganovim in Pompadisa. Pompadisa, they opened a bunch of barrels of wine. They wake up the next morning and they see ganovim tampered with all the barrels of wine. They opened all the barrels. So Rava was materit. My timer. Why? Ruba ganovi Yisrael nenu. In Pompadisa, mostly were Jews. So Mamela, the ganovim were mostly Yidden. So here's another example. They're mekel in Hilchas Geneva,
right?
And they're machmir in Yain Esach, right? The same with the Zoyna.
Yeah.
Here you have the complexity of a Jew,
right?
And Rav was materit for that reason because they're Yidden and their maga doesn't aser wine agam. They're in the process of stealing. Have uvda ben Ardoi. Ardoi does not have Roiv Jews. V'Omer Shmuel, and yet Shmuel said Chamer Shari. So why? It says the Gemara, Kaman Rabbi Eliezer, the Omer Suffek biatar that nan nichlas lebeka b'meisek shamim. The Tumah besad the plain is V'Omer lach the makam alaz v'nedem nechlas lo yisodem lo nechnasti. Rabbi Eliezer Suffek biatar Suffek maga Tumah, which means basically in English that whenever you have a valley with a bunch of fields and it's b'meisek shamim means it's like a Rosh Hashanah because nobody goes there. So Suffek,
it's a zman of
right? So Suffek Rosh Suffek Tumah Rosh Hashanah is Tameh. But Rabbi Eliezer holds it's tar. Suffek biatar, which means a bunch of fields, and one of the fields you have a mace, bunch of fields, and you're not sure if you walked into that field.
Right.
It's tar. Suffek biatar.
Right.
Suffek you came in, but if you did come in, you're not sure if you touched it. Suffek maga tama. That's the okay. So Gemara says. So what do you see from here? That Shmuel was matir the barrels in Hardai. Must have been matter because it's Suffek Bia. It's like Rabbi Eliezer, it's a Suffek guy, Suffek yid. So Suffek Bia, whether a guy touched it or a guy came in or a yid came in, that's tar. Gemara says loy. No, it's not a hechrech that he holds like Rabbi Eliezer. Shani Hassam Kivin
Chachamim etamim.
Chachamim etamim. Shmuel is matter the wine. Must hold like Rabbi Eliezer was matter, is matar over there too. Gemara says loy. It's not a hechrech. Shmuel is like Rabbi Eliezer. Why not Shani Hassam? Kivin the ikka paschal l'shamamayna have le svek sveika. Because over here it's a Suffek Sveika. Why is it a Suffek Sveika? It's not just one Suffek, it's two Sveikas. Number one, maybe it was a Yid. And on the tzad there was a guy, maybe he didn't open it to touch the wine. Maybe he opened it because sometimes they would hide the money in the barrels.
Right.
So he'd open the barrel, see it's wine, he wouldn't even touch it. So Suffek Sveika, maybe a Yid touched it. And even if it's a guy, maybe the guy didn't touch it because he just saw there was no money right away and he left.
Yeah.
So Mela Suffek Sveika, Kula Alma, you can go and be Mekalana. Here Ravisa, the Shtakra is Davas Beidani. You had a child, a non-Jewish child that was found between barrels of wine. Vavanakita ufya biyada, and she was holding.
How do you know he's a guy?
This is the Kasha of Maisa. Rashi says this was Ravisa that she was found. We found her. We saw her.
Yeah.
So she was holding ufya biyada. She was holding
this
child. Yeah, was holding ufya biyada, which means what's ufya in English? Foam. The foam with the wine.
phone?
Foam.
Foam.
Yeah.
Right.
The wine is mutter. Because we say she probably took the foam from the outside part of the barrel and not from on top of the wine. Avagav the lekasu, and even though you can't find any more foam in the barrel, she must have taken the whole foam, all of the foam.
How's the foam on the outside?
And I guess it spills over. It spills over. Gemara says, there was a whole army that came to Narda. Yeah? And paschu chaviyasa tuva. This army opened a bunch of barrels of wine, and these were for sure goyim. Yeah?
Right.
Okay. Ki as Rav Dimi Omar. So when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, he said, Ufta havo kamed Rebbe Lozer. Right? Rav Dimi was in Eretz Yisrael, and he said Rebbe Lozer was also Mar da Ardi Yisrael. He was the Poisek Adar in Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
And when it came to Nardo, which is in Bavel, he said, a similar story happened in Eretz Yisrael, and Rebbe Lozer was matter, so he could be matter over here. But V'liyadana, I'm not sure if when Rebbe Lozer was matter when that happened in Eretz Yisrael, why he was matter. Depends why he was matter. I'm not sure why he was matter. Either it was like Rabbi Eliezer, holds Suffek biatar, maybe it was a yid, maybe it was a guy, we're not sure. Or maybe Roiv who go with Palmusa are Yisrael. In other words, is it Roiv? Is it because it's Roiv? Or because even a Suffek is also okay? Which one is it? Now, if it's Roiv, then you can't compare the Psak of Rabbi Elazar in Eretz Yisrael to the story in Narda, because Roiv Yidden are Roiv army soldiers, army guys are Yisraelim in Eretz Yisrael.
In Eretz Yisrael, right? Yeah.
So you can't compare it to Narda.
Right.
But if it's a Suffek, then maybe that is that's different. So the Gemara says, no, hi Suffek Bia, Suffek Magahu. This Suffek Bia is like Suffek Maga. Why? What's high Suffek Bia? What's the one? No, sorry. High Suffek Bia, Suffek Magahu. Why are you saying Suffek Bia? This is a Suffek Maga. Because over here, we know it's for sure Goyim over here. So it's a Suffek Maga. It's just a question of they touched the wine, but they for sure came and opened the barrels. It's Goyim, we saw. Gemara says no. Since they opened a lot of barrels, more than they could drink, so obviously they didn't intend on drinking.
Right.
Because if they meant to drink it, then they would have opened as much
Just
as they
what
needed
they
to
wanted
drink.
to drink, yeah.
And that was it. But they opened more. It must be they were looking for money. And if they're looking for money, then probably they didn't touch it. So that's more comparable to Suffek Bia than Suffek Maga.
Why would they not touch it? Maybe
Because
they
as soon as they see
stick
it's
their
wine.
hand in
No.
No?
As soon as it's wine, there's no money. You don't put the money in there.
Okay.
So that's that. Okay, I think we have to stop here, unfortunately.
So Ayin Amud Beis.
Yeah. We have a minion?
May I ask a quick question? On Thursday night, there were burglars in my house when I entered. If I had wine that was not mevushal, would that be Suffek?
Who's it? We have any? Okay.
Who was in your house?